Elon Musk, 12:17 p.m., July 8th. Bannon is in the Epstein Files. Big accusation. Well, it doesn't necessarily have, on its face, it's not necessarily a big accusation because of how many people were at least in some way connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Harvard University in the Epstein Files. MIT in the Epstein Files. All manner of things are in the Epstein Files that, didn't necessarily do anything particularly nefarious. Well, Harvard does a lot of nefarious things, but not related to Little St. James Island or anything like that. But the insinuation, of course, is if you're in the Epstein Files, you were abusing young girls on a secret pedo island in the Caribbean or something. And Elon is saying Bannon did it. That's the first time I've ever heard that. Have you ever heard that Steve Bannon, I don't know Steve Bannon really, but have you ever heard Steve Bannon's in the Epstein Files? That he's like a pedo or something? I never heard that. But now that's out there, Bannon's going to have to respond. I guess he could sue for defamation. I don't know if you want to get into a lawsuit with the richest man in the world. Not that Steve Bannon is exactly, standing in breadlines. But I don't know. Do you want to do that? Maybe he is mentioned somewhere? And I'm sure there are a lot of files. Well, except, hold on, I was told there are no files anyway, and it's all totally above board, and there are no clients, and Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for ferrying underage girls to nobody. And what is Elon doing here? This is now the unfalsifiable attack on political opponents. My prediction is everybody, just about everybody, is going to be accused of being in the Epstein Files. I might be accused of being in the Epstein Files. I don't know. I was probably like 5 when Little St. James was going on. Well, that would be bad in other ways. But everyone's gonna get this accusation because it's unfalsifiable. It's kind of like the new climate change. Anytime when climate change was an issue, the left has kind of moved on from it because it ran its course. It's ridiculous. The predictions didn't come true. But when climate change, global warming was a big political issue, anything that happened was blamed on climate change and, by association, the Republican politicians who didn't believe in climate change. So anything that happened, a hurricane, climate change, it's your fault, Republicans, because you didn't pass my electric vehicle credit or whatever. A forest fire. A flood. It's too hot. It's too cold. A shooting, an outbreak of a war. They were blaming civil wars on climate change. Mass migration, climate change, everything, because it was unfalsifiable. Because the climate is always changing. And so any change, you can say, well, that in some indirect way is causing this malady. Well, same thing here. It's unfalsifiable, not because of anything in the nature of the Epstein Files. Climate change, just in its nature, is an unfalsifiable theory. With the Epstein Files, though, it's a little politically trickier because the government, under Biden and under Trump, the government has just said, we're not going to release really much information at all on Jeffrey Epstein. Sorry. You're not getting the files. You're not getting the client list. There's a client list on my desk. Oh, actually, there is no client list. Yeah, sorry. And so because the government has taken that position, for all sorts of reasons that we were talking about on the show yesterday, we don't need to rehash it. But because that's the government's position, now both sides, anyone with a political gripe can say, well, all right, well, you know why that person shouldn't be a member of Congress. You know why that person is so suspect. You know why you shouldn't buy that person's product. He's in the Epstein Files. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. You can't because there are no files. Or there are files, but then there aren't files. And I don't know. It's kind of weird. Speaking of Epstein, the Trump administration, not just Attorney General Pam Bondi, but all the way up to the big guy himself, are sick. They're sick and tired of talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Here is President Trump at a cabinet meeting being asked by a reporter about the files.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
Okay, so he opens up, he's covering for Pam Bondi already. And I'm pulling out my phone because I want to get a specific quote before we hear all of these sorts of denials. So he comes out, he says, why are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? I, Donald Trump, am jazzed about closing down the border. I'm jazzed about all my deportations. I'm jazzed about, apparently, for now at least, bringing relative peace to the Middle East. I'm jazzed about my domestic agenda, my trade agenda, my big, beautiful bill that I got. I'm jazzed about all these great things. And you're bringing up this guy, Jeffrey Epstein, a guy I kicked out of my membership club 20 years ago, this freaking guy dogging all political conversations. What? Just because we're not going to release the files? But the reporters still want answers. So Pam Bondi says, okay, I, as Attorney General, will answer this question. Here's her answer.
In February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day.
Okay, hold on. You know, I am about as strong a supporter of the people in this room as it is possible to be. But nobody is asking you to release the videos from Jeffrey Epstein's townhouse and island and other properties. The videos that were produced on the cameras that were reportedly in basically every room, because this was obviously not just a weird sex freak show. This was clearly a blackmail extortion operation, at least with private backing, maybe with public backing. That's why we're interested. Not one person has asked you to release the videos. We want you to release the names of people who are involved. Now, even that claim, I think, is a little overstated because we know a lot of the people involved already. We've seen a lot of the files anyway. Well, what people want is not to see underage kids being abused. We want to know who was abusing them. Right now, go to vandycrisps.com/Knowles. Did you know that all chips and fries used to be cooked in beef tallow up until the 1990s when big corporations made the switch to cheap, processed seed oils? Today, seed oils make up a staggering 20% of the average American's daily calories. Recent studies have started linking these oils to metabolic health issues and inflammation throughout the body, which got the folks at Vandy Crisps thinking there had to be a better way. They decided to go back to basics and created a potato chip with just 3 simple ingredients: heirloom potatoes, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. What makes Vandy different is not just what they've taken out, but what they've put back in. That grass-fed beef tallow is not just for flavor. It is packed with nutrients that are great for your skin, brain, and hormones. When you snack on Vandy, you will notice the difference immediately. Instead of that familiar crash, bloat, or sluggish feeling you get from regular chips, you'll feel satisfied, light, and energetic. To me, the most important thing is this is the best tasting chip you will ever have in your entire life. It's so good. You know, I was just on vacation in the old mother country, and there they don't really use a ton of seed oils. Like in America, everything's full of seed oils. There, you don't really get that, and it just tastes better and it feels better. And these Vandy chips, which are really nice and beautifully American, but with only the top ingredients, these Vandy chips are the best chip you will ever have. Period. It tastes like a different thing, basically. Made 100% in America, zero shortcuts. Vandy represents what snacking should feel like. Satisfying and guilt-free. Ready to give Vandy a try? You should be. Go to vandycrisps.com/Knowles. Use code Knowles for 25% off your first order. vandycrisps.com/Knowles. Code Knowles for 25% off your first order. When the Attorney General says these are videos of essentially child pornography, and we're not going to release it, who were they with? Who were the non-children in the videos? That's what we want to know. And the government just has to come up with a better response to this. I did half my show yesterday on all the reasons why you're never going to get the Jeffrey Epstein files, why you never, or the full story, you know, a story that contradicts the official narrative. You're never going to get it. You were never going to get it. I predicted you were never going to get it. I think it is naive for anyone to think that they were going to get it. And I went on to the reasons why governments are not totally transparent, why they cannot be totally transparent, how every state spies. I think I have been as fair and even-minded about this as it is possible to be. But the people are going to demand more of an answer. And one cannot simply obfuscate and say, well, we're not going to release videos of child sexual abuse material. No one's asking you to. We want to know who's in it. The very fact that you're saying it's child pornography leads to the next question, which is, well, who were the adults? All the more reason to release the adults. Pam Bondi goes on.
To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
What? Hold on. So they released this video. Hold on. Let's rewind even further. Let's rewind even a little bit further. Pam Bondi says, I did an interview where I was asked if we were going to release the list. And I said, the list is on my desk. But I didn't really mean that. I meant the files are on my desk. And in the files, there is no list. Even that's kind of, because you say, well, okay, maybe there's not like a list like typed out on a single page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but people are in the files. Who are the people? But furthermore, what she said in that interview was, she was asked verbatim, here's the line, the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she responded, it's sitting on my desk right now. I'll repeat that. The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? It's sitting on my desk right now. It's, in that sentence, can only refer to the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Now, she might be saying here or insinuating that she misspoke. Okay, maybe she meant to say one thing, but she said another. But even to say, well, I was referring to the files. No, if you were referring to the files, you would say, they are on my desk right now. Files is plural. The list is singular. No, they're just not going to release it. And I never expected them to release it. I never expected Democrats to release it or Republicans to release it. Because, as I said yesterday, if Jeffrey Epstein is who the government says he is, just a rich sex freak who happened to have a lot of really rich and powerful friends, but they were not at all connected to the sex stuff. If that is true, then you've already got the full story on Epstein. And if that's not true, if Epstein is something else, if Epstein was, as Alex Acosta insinuated, owned by intelligence, whether we're talking about American intelligence, CIA, whether we're talking about foreign intelligence, the Mossad, because of the Ghislaine Maxwell connection, whether we're talking about MI6 or any of the Five Eyes IC or anything else, if he was that, you're never going to hear anything more about it. And the naivete to say, well, no, but we voted. You tell me the government, you are accusing the government of being in bed with an underage sex ring kingpin, spy for one or multiple intelligence agencies, but you think they're just going to roll over and give you the list? Or what is that? Or could be, by the way, it could be the case that actions have been taken or are being taken to in some way bring some of these people to justice, maybe, or to use them as government assets, or whatever that is, that's not going to be transparent. It won't be. That's not how governments work. I get it. I never expected them to release the files. And I told you I never expected them to release the files, and I told you you were crazy to think that they would release the files. That said, the government needs a better answer on this because Trump was elected as an outsider. Trump was elected to be a disinfectant on the swamp. And so there might be perfectly good, legitimate, honorable reasons. I'm not joking. There might be completely above board good reasons not to release this list or some version of this list. But the people are going to demand an answer for this. This is more than just one issue among many. This is something that is significant. This signals something about the administration. I think they need to come up with a better answer than this. I'm not saying they got to release the files, but they got to come up with a better answer than this. That was a great clip. Now stop, ring the bell, subscribe. See you next time.